Okay, so we're learning, I texted, we're going to learn about Moshe's teenage years. So let's do that. Let's get into the Chumash now. And we're going to learn about Moses as what happened in Moses' life. So we had the story yesterday where Moses was taken by Batya. She was given to, Batya hired Moses' real mother to nurse him and take care of him until he was about 12 years old. And then she took him into the palace. There's one Rashi I need to share with you today, which I'm maybe going to talk about at tonight's class, but God willing, if I'm able to put it together. But here we go. And it was in those days. Vayigdal Moshe, and Moshe grew up. I believe I saw somewhere that he was 17, 18 years old at the time. So as far as I understand, the order is he's raised by his parents, Amram and Yocheved, till 12. 12 years old, he goes into the palace, and he lives there till he's 17, 18 years old. And something happens, like we're going to see, that he has to run away for his life. His step-grandfather wants to kill him, and we're going to see exactly how that story takes place. It wasn't those days. Moshe grew up. So he grew up even more. And it already says that Moses grew up and the parents gave him to Batya to raise him. And the Torah Rashi says, well, what does it mean he grew up even more than before to greatness? So basically, Pharaoh appointed Moses to be a big macher, an important guy, a powerful position over the house. So Moshe, this Moshe was saved by Batya, and now is being raised by Pharaoh's own daughter, is now brought into the house to become a powerful position within the Egyptian culture that are abusing the Jews. And Moses knows he's Jewish. He lived at home with his parents till he was 12. So Vayetzalach, if he goes out to his brothers, he goes to he's an important guy in the palace. He goes out to the Jewish people, and he sees the pain, he sees the burdens, he sees these guys are working, what they're being, how much work they have to do. And Rashi says he opened his heart to them and he saw, my goodness gracious, look at this. What's going on with my brothers and sisters? He's here in the palace and he sees the Jewish people suffering tremendously. Vayar ish Mitzri, and a story happens. He sees an Egyptian man, Make ish Ivri, beating mercilessly a Jewish man. An Egyptian man beating a Jewish man. Very interesting Rashi here. Very, very interesting. Let's see what happens. Rashi explains to us that the Jew was an officer and the Egyptian was an officer, meaning, like the, what do they call them in the Holocaust? They appointed Jews to oversee other Jews. It was a name, and they got a really bad name, those people.
Capo.
The capo. So the like that idea, but these people didn't actually, thank you, yeah, but these people didn't actually hurt the Jews. In other words, they weren't like the capo. Maybe there were some good capo who tried to protect the Jews too. But anyway, the bottom line is there were officers among the Jews, and there were also officers among the Egyptians. So the Egyptians officers oversaw the Jewish officers who oversaw the work that the Jews had to do, the taxes, the amount of work that had to get done. So this Egyptian officer was beating mercilessly a Jewish officer. Why? And Rashi tells us a very interesting story took place over there. Fascinating behind the stories scene that he takes it from the Medrash, the tradition, oral tradition. Why was specifically this Egyptian taskmaster beating mercilessly the Jewish taskmaster? The Egyptian taskmaster would wake up very early in the morning, the Jewish taskmasters, to get to work. And this guy came in the middle of the night. Why? Because he really liked the Jewish officer's wife. He wanted to have intimacy with her. So he went to the Jewish guy's house. He woke her up. He woke him up in the middle of the night. Go to work. He went at night. Somehow she was sleeping. He was intimate with her while she was sleeping, I guess. She didn't realize what's going on. He left. And the Jew came back and they figured out what happened. Maybe at that moment, whatever happened, it's an interesting story. And I guess the husband realized and she realized and figured out what happened. And when the guy came to work the next day, obviously when the Jew was looking at the Egyptian guy, he says, I know what you did. You didn't pull one on me. I don't know what you thought you were going to pull, but you didn't pull one on me. I know exactly what happened. And he started beating him mercilessly. That's the background to the story. Now, what to make it even crazier, in the third book of the Chumash, this is the second book. In the third book of the Chumash, we're going to learn about a Jew that cursed God. Crazy story, interesting story is going to happen there. There was someone who, I think it was the tribe of Dan, maybe, and there was one troublemaker there who was saying a lot of bad things. And Dan basically said, get out of our tribe. You don't belong here. Why not? Because he was the child, very interesting. He was the child, there was a child born from that intimacy. So the Egyptian who was intimate with the with the Jewish woman had a child. The child was born from that marriage. And that child that was born was raised by his mother. But the question was, which tribe should the kid be part of? Because, right, which tribe should the kid be part of? Because his father's not from the tribe. And then when that kid ended up, you can imagine a kid born from such an intimacy is going to have problems. He ended up being a very bad Jew, and he ends up getting killed for cursing God because, whatever, we'll get to that story when we see it over there, but it takes place over here. A very interesting Rashi behind the scenes. All the verse tells us is that an Egyptian taskmaster was hitting a Jewish taskmaster, but the oral tradition shares with us a fascinating behind-the-scenes story to this whole to what's going on up here. Anyway, continuing in our story. Moses sees what's going on. Mercilessly, this Egyptian's hitting another Jew. He looks this way and that way. And Rashi says, what does it mean he looks this way and that way? Well, simply it means he wants to make sure nobody's looking. But Rashi says, if you want to dig deeper, he looked, Moses could see what potential. Would anyone convert from this? Would there be any tzaddikim, righteous people? He sees there's no good coming out of this guy. He sees that nobody's looking. He struck the Egyptian. He killed him, and he hit him in the ground. So he did a quick job. Look, nobody's looking. Also looked at the guy's future. He sees nobody's looking. He takes the Egyptians. He digs up the ground, buries him, and we should know the story that happened. And here's what happens. The next story is really where we see what's going on. This Rashi, the next verse is, I think, one of the most important Rashis. We'll see in a minute in the Torah. But first, Vayetze b'yom hasheni, Moses goes out again. He's in his official governing position that he has, important guy. He's the step-grandson of Pharaoh. He sees the second day, Vinishne Anashim. There's two men, Ivrim, Nitzim. Now there's two Jews fighting. Two Jews are fighting with each other. And he tells them, you evil man, you Russia, like in Tanya, we're learning Russia. Lama Sakariyecha, why are you about to hit your friend? He didn't even hit him yet, but you're trying to hit him. You're a wicked person. You know, why are you hitting another Jew? What's going on over here? And he's dignity, he's royalty, he's a powerful position. He tells one Jew, why are you hitting the other one? But Rashi tells us we even know who these two men are. Who was the Jew who was trying to hit the other Jew? He says these are two famous troublemakers. They're Dasan and Aviram. Dasan and Aviram will later on come up, make a lot of problems for the Jewish people. With the manna, there's going to be a story with the manna that they're going to try to say what Moses is not saying the truth, and they're going to try to leave leftover man. We're not going to get into now, but the two famous troublemakers in the Torah. He says, why are you fighting? Why are you hitting? Why are you one Jew hitting another Jew? Vayomer. So what do they say? And here's where the story goes on. So what do they say? Vayomer. So the Jew tells Moshe, Nisam Chali'ish, who made you into a man that's Sarva Shefet Aleinu to be in charge of us? Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Halahargeinu ato Omer, what do you want to kill us? Kasher haraktas hamitzri, like you killed the Egyptian yesterday, the other day. You're going to try to kill us too? Ayira Moshe, and Moshe got afraid. This is maybe one of the only times it says that Moses got afraid. Yoimer, and he says, Adavar, shoots, the matter has become known. Shoots, it's become known. So there's a simple way to read this verse, and this is a very important verse. Rashi tells us that he killed him with his mouth. First of all, the Egyptian, we learned from here that he didn't kill him with his hands. He didn't take a sword and kill the Egyptian. The other day, he spoke a holy word, and he ended up dying. And most of the simple meaning is Moses got afraid. What he got afraid of? Everyone found out. And he's the grandson of Pharaoh. He's being watched with over 4 eyes. The kid that was adopted. All they're going to do is they're going to find out what he did. They're going to kill him. And they're going to try to kill him. But he says, so that's what Moses got afraid of. But come on, there's got to be a deeper meaning here, what Moses is afraid of. And he says something very interesting, Rashi says. It doesn't mean, indeed, the matter has become known. Did it mean that the people found out that I killed the Egyptian? He says, I know why maybe God is making the Jewish people suffer so much, and maybe he won't want to redeem them. He says, look at this. Here I am, maybe I guess they knew he was Jewish or not. And here you have two Jews fighting with each other. Jews are suffering under such slavery. And the Jews are beating each other up still. And I was wondering, God, this is an unbelievable Rashi. God, what do you have against the Jews? Why are you making them suffer so much? Why are they having such more slave labor than anybody else? You know, you told Abraham that the Jews will be slaves, but such a slavery, you could have, God made it not a little bit easier. And I couldn't understand. Moses himself said, I couldn't understand, God, why would you do this to the Jewish people? And now maybe I figured it out. The problem is he's scared that maybe he has an answer to this question. If this is how the Jews behave, they beat each other up. And then could you imagine Moses is killing an Egyptian who was trying to kill a Jew. Moses is killing an Egyptian who's trying to kill a Jew, and another Jew goes back to Pharaoh and tells Pharaoh on Moses. Whatever. Don't worry. I don't even know what you're talking about, David. It's okay. Sorry, David. Don't worry about it. So, back to our, so do you understand what's going on here? Moses is realizing why the Jews are suffering so much. I want to have a class on this tonight. Maybe we do it to ourselves. We always complain, God, why are you putting us in? But you know what? When Israel has nobody attacking it, what do the Jews do? They rip each other apart. Sometimes the challenges Jews face unites us. The question is, why can't we just get it in our heads to not fight with each other when we're at peace? Why do we have to suffer in order for us to be united? And that's what Moshe is saying over here. It's a very scary Rashi. It's a very scary verse in understanding. Moses is saying, God, I questioned you. I questioned you. God, why would you do this to the Jewish people? And here he says, maybe I know an answer, and which is very scary. Maybe they deserve it because they always fight with each other. But Yishma Paroi, and Paro heard us adavar the thing Asher vayivakish laharigas Moshe, and Paro found out. So they go and they tell on Moshe. Could you imagine? These guys go. And he wanted to kill Moshe. Vayivrach Moshe. So Paro goes to kill Moshe. Rashi tells us he took him to the guillotine. They quote Moshe. Moshe, you're an adopted grandson. We see what's really going on over here. Out of the house. We're going to kill you. And they put Moshe to the guillotine. And Hashem made a miracle that his neck turned to marble, and they couldn't kill him. And Moshe runs away. Yivrach Moshe Moshe runs from Pharaoh, Midian, and he lives in the land of Midian. Yeshav ala bi'er, and he goes to the well. Why does he go to the well? He learned from his father Yaakov that my dad Yaakov went to the well to meet his wife. I'm going to do the same thing. And he goes to the well. Sometimes I say like a joke, like that was a local bar at the time. You know, like you want to go meet a wife, you go to the local well. That was a thing that everybody did. L'kai Midian Shavabanes, and the Midianites in that town, there was a Kohen. There was a priest, which means a royalty, a powerful, important person. And this guy had Sheva Banai, 7 daughters. He had 7 daughters. Batavoina and Batidlena, Batimalena, Esarahatim, Mahashkitsenavim. The girls came down. Again, we see girls are being the shepherds of the time. And this guy, Rashi tells us, this important guy in Midian, in the city of Midian, where Moses ran to the well, had decided that he's going to come back to, that he used to serve idols, and he decided idols are wrong. Somehow this guy Yisro came to the recognition that idols are not the right thing, and he was kind of excommunicated from the town. They didn't like him. So he had 7 daughters, and his daughters went with their sheep to fill up to give their sheep to drink. And the shepherds all came, and they saw Yisro's daughters at the well giving their sheep water to drink. They garshim, and they chased them away because they didn't like this family anymore, because they excommunicated him because he stopped believing in idols. Moshe stood up for them, and he saved them. And he gave them to drink. So I guess whoever was there attacked these girls, and Moses stood up for them. So they went to their father, whose name is Ruel. Yisro, he has 7 names. One of his names is Ruel. Avia, their father. And the father said, how'd you get home so quickly today? You know, usually it takes you a lot longer. So the girls tell their father, Ish Mitzu, we met an Egyptian man, right? This guy from Egypt. Itzlan, who saved us from the other shepherds. Not just did he save us from them, he actually helped us give our sheep water to drink. As Rashi says, the water rose, actually. It's a miracle happened. When this guy Moses came to the well to help us out, the water all of a sudden rose. And we gave our sheep to drink. So he tells his daughters, why do you leave the guy at the well? Let him call and give us and let him eat food with us. Meaning, if this guy has water rising for him, as Rashi says, he's got to be from the special Jewish family, from Yaakov, that water rises towards them. Remember, when Yaakov went to Egypt, the water rose, started rising. And come, let him eat bread with us. What does it mean to eat bread? Let's see if he can marry one of you. Not break bread just to eat, but let's see, maybe we can make a shidduch over here. This sounds like a really good guy. I wish we could marry one of my 7 daughters. And he went. Moses returned to stay with the man. He gave him his daughter, whose name is Tzipporah. Bita LaMoshe, his daughter Tzipporah to Moshe. Moses marries one of the 7 daughters, whose name was Tzipporah. He ends up marrying her. Rashi tells here, he also promised him that he will not leave Midian only with permission. In other words, I guess he was scared that this Egyptian kid will want to go back to Egypt and leave the family and take the girl. He says, do not leave. Rashi tells us he had to swear to marry. He had to swear that he'll stay over there. Taled ben, and guess what? Tzipporah and Moses have a child. Shmo Gershom. He called his name Gershom. Why did he call him Gershom? The famous people probably in our class heard of that name. Because I was a foreigner. He's like the stranger. He was a stranger in the land. So he called his child with the name identifying with his position in the town at the time. And it was many days past. And the Egyptian king died. Rashi says he actually didn't die. He broke out with a leprosy. So he was like dead. When you have this leprosy, you're so sick or you're so impure that you're like you're dead. And something to do with the sickness of the king, the Jewish people started moaning. In other words, it got even worse now, the exile. What happened? Rashi tells us that some weird kind of medicine, in order to cure the king's leprosy, it only worked by taking blood. So they would kill the baby children, and the king would bathe in their blood. That's some kind of ridiculous thing was going on. So the Jewish people started crying out to Hashem. It got really, really bad. And their cry went up to Hashem and Aveda from the hard work and the terrible situation that they were in. And and God heard their cry. And God remembered his promise that he made to Abraham many years ago, 400 years before. He promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he will listen to the children, that he will save them. God saw them, he opened up his heart to them, and he stopped hiding his eyes, and he was going to save the Jewish people. And Moses, by the way, is 77 years old, so it was a long time. Moses did not leave in Egypt for long. He stayed by his parents till he was 12. From 12 to 17, 18 is when he lived in the palace. 17, 18, he went out, he got a royal position. He went out and right away tried to help the Jewish people. As he tried to help them, one Jew told on him and had him killed, tried to have him killed, capital punishment for saving a Jew. And Moses freaks out and is like, shoots, now I know perhaps why the Jews are suffering so much. And Moses runs away to Midian. He lives there. He has children. He has a child there. His name is Gershon. Until he's 77 years old. And God finally says enough is enough. And in next week's Chumash, we're going to see what happened. God reveals himself to Moses and finally has Moses go and save the Jewish people. Any questions or comments on our fascinating Chumash that we're learning? Any questions or comments? Yes, Terry, the birthday girl. Go ahead.
So when Moses left and he ran away, he was in his teens. And then when he went to find Tzipporah at the well,
he was 18.
How old was he?
I saw before class that he was 18.
Right. So when did he marry Tzipporah? When he was 18?
I don't know. I don't know the age. I think that Moses will be 80 when he leaves. When the Jews leave Egypt, Moses will be 80. So I don't know. It seems I don't know. You're asking me when exactly they get married? I don't know. Probably, I would assume right away. As soon as he comes down, the first thing he does, he goes to the well. So he's 18 years old at the time. I don't know how long his father-in-law kept him and didn't let him marry his daughter until, but Rashi says he made him promise that you're not leaving here without my permission.
So let's say he's 20 years old when he gets married. So
right.
In 60 years he lived in where? Midian?
No, 77.
In Midian for a long time.
So he lived there and he didn't act acclimate to their ways?
I guess not. But why would he? His father-in-law was an outcast, we said. His father-in-law was an outcast himself who gave up idol worship.
I thought he was a priest for them.
He says, that's what Rashi says today. He was, but he stopped. He was a priest. He was an important guy, but he was excommunicated from the community. That's why the other shepherds did not let his daughter feed the sheep. And the father's like, how'd you come home so early? Usually the other shepherds give you a hard time. They don't like our family. And she's like, whoa, this guy showed up at the well and saved me and helped me out. So you're right. It says that in the Torah clearly. He was, that they hated him. They didn't like him. He was the priest in the town.
Well, when after he leaves, he leaves the Bnei Israel, Yitro leaves and goes back. Why would he go back if he was an outcast?
He didn't go back. He lived in the town. Just the people in the town didn't like him. He wasn't out. In other words,
got the Torah when he tells Moshe them to make judges or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, why does Yisro go back to his town?
Correct.
That's a good question. That's a good question anyway. That's a great question. Why would he leave anyway after we saw the miracles? It's discussed by the commentaries. When we get there, we'll talk about it. It's a very good question. But you have the question either way, why he left. Or you're saying, had he not, whatever. Let's discuss it when we get there. That's in a few weeks. It's a very good question. We have to analyze that, and there's a whole discussion about the commentaries, if I remember correctly, about this. Good question. Yes, anybody else? Any other questions and comments on today's Chumash?
How do we know that the Pharaoh's daughter name was Batya? It doesn't mention it anywhere.
No, you sure? I mean, that was in yesterday's Chumash.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was in yesterday's Chumash. I believe it says Basya. I believe it does say her name. In yesterday's Chumash, if you look. Look in Monday's Chumash.
No, it just said that the daughter of Pharaoh came down with her.
Oh, it says daughter of Parai.
It doesn't say her name anywhere.
Right. I'm looking right now.
From the Midrash. From the Midrash.
Yeah.
The Midrash says a lot of things about her.
I think I saw it on Facebook.
There you go, on Google.
It keeps on calling her Bas Paro instead of saying Batya. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought I saw it.
They're saying her original name was not Batya. She converted. And then
It's a pretty crazy. It's a crazy part of the story because you have Pharaoh's own daughter saving the guy who will overthrow Pharaoh, right?
The crazier part about it that after they changed her name to Batya, she actually was one of the 10 only people that went to heaven without dying.
Okay, where does it say that?
There's a commentary of. There's actually a known. It's not even a commentary. It's a list of the 10 people who went to heaven without dying, and Elijah was one on that list, and Batya. But Pharaoh, I think she's the number 9 on that list. I mean,
I don't know. Very interesting. The Torah doesn't give her a name. The Torah keeps on calling her. I'm looking at it now. It keeps on calling her Bastia. That's interesting.
Midrash.
I guess so. I saw it. I definitely saw the word
definitely
Batya.
call her Batya.
I don't know. I'm trying to see it now. I can't find it right now, but
her name is special because it's the daughter of God. Batya is daughter of God.
right.
And Pharaoh would never have called her daughter of God.
It literally does not give her name. It keeps on calling her the daughter of Pharaoh, the daughter of Pharaoh.
Uh-huh.
Very interesting. Okay, good point. All right, let's move. Yeah, great point, Eyal. Thanks for sharing that. Interesting. All right. I don't know the answer. I thought it said it. I was so sure I saw it that I thought it said it inside the Torah. Okay. Let's move along. Unless any questions or comments, we'll move on to today's Tanya. Okay. I want to share with you in today's Tanya. Let me just stop and